back, guys. Today, I want to talk about the NBA playoffs first round and make some predictions. And by the time this video comes out, the playoffs will already been started. So, I'm not going to waste much time. I don't want to be before you too long. And so, let's start off with the Miami Heat taking on the Boston Celtics. And this is the fourth time in the last 5 years these two teams have met up. If you don't recall, the last two times were in the Eastern Conference Final, and that other time in 2020 was also the Eastern Conference Final. But this time, things are going to be a little different. For one, the Heat are probably going to have to, if they're going to want to upset the Celtics, the top seeded Celtics this time, they're going to have to do it mostly without Jimmy Butler. He is going to be out with a sprained MCL. There's no telling how long he's going to be out. Who knows? And for the Boston Celtics, aka the best team in the world, it was the East. They pretty much ran the East. It was them or no one else. That's how bad the East was this year. Now, in these last 5 years, actually the last 3 times Miami has won this series. But unlike this year, because of all the injuries and given how dominant the Celtics has been this year, I am going to roll my Boston Celtics to win this series. And I'll say probably 6. I do think the Heat's going to sneak a game. And it could wind up getting one more game on us too. So there's that. Next up, we have the Philadelphia 76ers taking on the New York Knicks, with the Sixers winning the first play-in game with the Miami Heat, and the Knicks somehow getting the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. And for this series, I honestly don't know where to go. I can see this go in any direction, but I'm going to bank my hope in my first little upset in this series. If the Sixers, I'm banking on the Sixers to take this series in 6. And the reason why I'm taking the Sixers is because before Joel Embiid got hurt, they were pretty much on their way to where the Knicks are right now. But, they already won the play-in game. If Joel Embiid's healthy and confident, I think the Sixers can take this series. So I'm going to roll with the Sixers in 6. The next NBA series in the docket is the Indiana Pacers taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. And particularly for the Bucks, this has been a very, very odd season. They had a good record. From what I recall, they had a really good record at the start of the season. Then midway through, they decided to fire their head coach, possibly due to a lack of defensive intensity. And then hire Doc Rivers, which kind of made the situation a lot worse than it already is. Meanwhile, for Indiana, they kind of had a bit of a roller coaster season, but they did get on a bit of a hot streak, thus able to land the 6th seed of the Eastern Conference Eastern Conference playoffs. On hindsight, Milwaukee should win this series by at least 5 games. But knowing the Bucks, I'm still going to take them to win. They cannot afford to have what happened last year to them happen, where they were lost in 5 as a 1 seed. But I do think the Bucks will probably go all the way to 7, and that's the only reason I'm saying that is because it's the Bucks. They've been having some bad luck, and Giannis will probably be out for the first couple of games due to a calf strain. He might be out for the whole series. Who knows? And following that, we have the Orlando Magic taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Cleveland, this season has been okay for them. But Orlando has kind of went under the radar this year. With Paolo Banchero, he's been an underrated all-star to me. I feel like he's one of the more underrated players in the league right now. The Magic has quietly putting themselves together a quality NBA roster. And given that Cleveland is on a bit of a, I don't know, I don't want to say they're on a slump, but they are kind of in a slump. And Donovan Mitchell, he has had bad playoff luck. I was leaning towards the Magic to win this series. No lie. But I do think Cleveland is going to probably win this series. And I hope they push it all the way to 7. Now on to the West, where we have the Pelicans taking on the Oklahoma City Thunders. Kudos to the Pelicans winning the second playing game to beat the Kings, and doing so without Zion Williamson. While the Thunder, well, this has been actually a surprisingly good year for them. The youth on their team, they're number, and somehow they found their way as the top seed in the West. And that conference is going to be loaded this playoffs. But I'm going to keep this one brief because the Pelicans, Zion may be out for a few of these games. He might be out for the whole series. I'm going to say the Thunder should win in 5. Possible sweep ahead. And then we have the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Denver Nuggets. The Lakers won their play-in game with the New Orleans Pelicans, thanks Zion getting injured. And this is actually a rematch of the Western Conference Final. Now, in that Western Conference Final, it was as clear as day. Denver was the better team. And the Lakers, they always seem to find a way in the playoffs. Here's the phases of the Lakers that I find very interesting. They'll start the season off boo-hoo, then things will go really bad. Then after All-Star break, they'll start winning all of a sudden because the NBA realized, oh, we cannot have the Lakers miss the playoffs, knowing that they're not a superior team as the other teams in the West. So with that being said, yeah, I'm taking Denver easily to take this series in 5. And the only reason I'm saying 5 because there will be a Scott Foster Classic in this game. If you know, you know. Now we have the Phoenix Suns taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And in this series, look, Phoenix has been on a... They have ended the season better than they started. There was a period of time where they were on a slump. And that's despite having KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal on that team. And thanks to the Pelicans losing that final game of the season and them blowing out Dallas, they were able to get to the 6th seed and avoid the play-in altogether. So I gotta give them credit for the turnaround. As for Minnesota, they were for most of the part were the top team in the West. However, they did lose Karl Anthony Towns for about a month. He has since returned, but he's still trying to get back to what he was before the injury. To me, I think this is going to boil down to is experience. Minnesota, yes, they made the playoffs last year a few times in the last couple years, but they have not had memorable runs. I do think Phoenix probably takes the series. And if I had to pick a number, I'll say probably 6. And last but not least, we have the Dallas Mavericks taking on the LA Clippers. And I feel like these two teams always play each other in the Western Conference playoffs every single year. Well, at least for Dallas, they didn't have a repeat of last year where they, despite having Kyrie and Luka on the same team, last year they didn't make the playoffs altogether. This year, they made it as a 6th seed. They'll take what they can, made it as a 5th seed, excuse me. They'll take what they can get. Meanwhile, the Clippers, for the most part of the season, they had one of the best NBA offenses in the league. But I am starting to hear rumblings that Kawhi might be hurt again. Said he has some swelling in his knee. And I keep asking myself, every time in the playoffs, why does this always happen to the Clippers? To me, they're clearly the better team in LA in the regular season. But every year, I feel like in the postseason, the Clippers find a way, somehow, some way, they find a way to hurt themselves. I do think that Dallas will win this series. It's probably going to be within 6 or 7, but I will not be surprised if this is a five game series. And that concludes the first round of the NBA playoffs. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.